Today is really not a good day to go out because the weather is just horrible. It's pretty much gonna rain the whole day. But our plan is to go and see Buckingham Palace, then watch the Horse Guards parade, and hopefully, if the weather doesn't get worse, we'll go back to Westminster Abbey since we weren't able to see it on our first day here. So after we had our usual complimentary breakfast, before we head to Buckingham Palace, we walked down this street to see this church. It's called the Westminster Cathedral. Nice. It's funny that the first thing I noticed when we got here was the contrast between the cathedral, which was built in 1895 to 1903, and what's in front of it. Right in front of it is like a mall. I thought that it was just kind of ironic. The Westminster Cathedral is the largest Catholic church in the UK. Some people confuse this with the Westminster Abbey, but they're different. This church was dedicated to the most precious blood of our Lord Jesus Christ, as you can see written in Latin just above the entrance. It's not really a major landmark in London since this history is not that old, but the fact that it's the largest Catholic church in England, we decided to check it out. There's no fee, right? It's kind of hard to think that you have to pay a fee to go in a church, but most of the famous cathedrals and churches in Europe are like that. It's slowly becoming a business to make money from tourists, but thankfully this one is free for anyone to go in. This cathedral is definitely big. It's about 54,000 square feet, and if you're wondering, the width is 59 feet and the length is 230 feet. You'll really notice it when you enter, and it looks like the walls and the floors are all made of marble. I'm not really familiar with churches, but this cathedral has multiple chapels on each side, probably with different purpose as well, but the design and the mosaic art on the ceiling and walls are just amazing. They also have a lot of past archbishops of Westminster buried here, like for example this one. You know what? I think all the past archbishops of this church are all buried here. Ceiling. So after checking every part of this church and its artworks, we headed to Buckingham Palace, which was just a walking distance from here. So we're gonna go to Buckingham Palace now. So this is the entrance to the Buckingham Palace. And there's a lot of people now. I guess we're gonna go there. If you didn't know, the Buckingham Palace is the home of the British monarchs today. You know, it's funny, every time I think of England, I think of this place. Anyway, the history of Buckingham Palace is that it was originally built for the Duke of Buckingham in 1703, until King George III acquired it in 1761 and turned it into a private residence for Queen Charlotte and pretty much became the Queen's house. It is only during the time of Queen Victoria in 1837 that Buckingham Palace finally became the official royal residence of the monarch. The palace is about 830,000 square feet with 775 rooms consisting of 188 staff bedrooms, 92 offices, 78 bathrooms, 52 principal bedrooms, and 19 staterooms. It also has a post office, a swimming pool, a hospital, a movie theater, as well as a jewelry workshop, which is kind of crazy and amazing at the same time. You know, you wouldn't believe what else is inside this palace if I tell you. Well, I'm just reading it. We didn't really go inside the palace. I guess we're just satisfied seeing it from out here. But if you want to go inside, the tickets are about £25. That's about $32. This much. What is this called? So this is called the Victoria Memorial. As you can see, it's right in front of the palace, and it's obviously to commemorate Queen Victoria. It was built between 1911 to 1924. It's designed with a bronze statue at the very top. It actually looks like gold to me, but it's bronze. And it's surrounded with marble statues from the bottom. Through time, it eventually became a part of celebrations whenever they have some kind of an affair here at Buckingham Palace. Wow. That's like the main road. That's actually called the mall. I'll talk about that later after I check out this thing. In front of this thing. Here, I want to touch it. So this street is called the Mall. It's basically a long street lined up of trees that stretches out all the way to Trafalgar Square, which we'll go see later. But this street is primarily used for ceremonial occasions like royal weddings, jubilee celebrations, and state visits. As we were walking towards the mall, we spotted this. This is called the Diana, Princess of Wales Memorial Walk. It's basically a marker to a 7-mile walk trail in central London. As we were walking the mall going to the Horse Guard Parade, I noticed on this side is the St. James Park. It's London's oldest royal park, which was established in 1603. You know, now that I think about it, we should have walked through the park instead of walking through this. So this is the site where the Horse Guard Parade happens. They start the parade at 11 a.m. and we're actually on time because they're just about to start. This place is formerly the site of the Palace of Whitehall's Tittle Yard. It's where tournaments like jousting were held during the time of King Henry VIII. It was also once the headquarters of the British Army. The Horse Guard Parade is starting right now. Where is it going? So the Horse Guard Parade is basically a process of changing the guards for the Queen, which are called the Queen's Life Guard, mounted on horses. They have two different guards, the Long Guard and the Short Guard. The Long Guard, which is made of an officer, a corporal major, 2 non-commissioned officers, and 10 troopers, with the person who plays the trumpet, are all mounted when the Queen is in Buckingham Palace. And if she's not in the palace, they only mount the Short Guard, which are 2 non-commissioned officers and 10 troopers. I'm almost 100% sure that this is the Long Guard, so the Queen is probably in the palace right now. It's really confusing how the process works. Actually, a very nice policewoman was trying to explain everything to me, but I still didn't get it. There's just so much going on here. Well, the rain also didn't help because it was really difficult to film. But we ended up staying here the whole time and waited until the changing of guards was completed. So it's gonna stand right there. Another preschool. Big horses, man. They're huge.
Guard! Left turn to hold on the left! Reform!
Right here, I'm assuming are the old guards, or the guards that are being replaced, because everybody who was watching started rushing to see them dismount on this side. And they slapped the horses. They slapped the horses. After they gave those horses a nice slap and dismounted, the parade is finally over. I was actually waiting to see more, but all these people seem to know that it's over, and they just started leaving. They're all going home now. All these people. Where are they going? They're all just leaving now. They just like up and left, like they're in a hurry. They're like about to go or something. Maybe they're all hungry. Just a block from the horse parade is this place. It's England's Prime Minister's office, or famously known as the 10 Downing Street. As you can see, it's not open to the public, but people still gather around here just to get a glimpse of that famous door. I didn't really see the door, but being out here is good enough.
It's really raining. Sucks.
So after this, we found this restaurant or pub to have lunch. And I'm really hoping to find some traditional English food here.
We're gonna order the beef, British beef and Dunbar ale pie. I don't know, that sounds British. Right? It's like British food. And then I want to try the mushroom Benedict. And then you're gonna get the creamy mushroom risotto. Alright. And then I don't know what else. That's it so far. Maybe a beer. Okay, so we changed our minds. It's gonna be the bangers and mash because that's a traditional British food.
I guess this is really a pub because I had to order at the bar and waited for our food to be served. So this is the bangers and mash. It's a traditional English and Irish dish made up of sausages served with mashed potatoes. This one we ordered are 3 Lincolnshire sausages with peas and mashed potatoes with gravy. They had an option of fries and mushy peas, but this one seemed more authentic. I noticed right away that the sausages look dry and maybe overcooked. I think it should be more juicy and plump. This one right here is all shriveled and dry. I'm just happy it came with a lot of gravy.
It's really hot. Some gravy.
Just like it looks, it's tough and dry. It didn't have that sausage flavor I'm looking for. It just tasted like meat with a little seasoning. I had way better sausage than this for sure. And that goes with the gravy, the mashed potatoes, and the peas. There's really nothing special to it. You know, regarding the gravy, if you ask me, KFC is way better.
The sausage is kind of dry, but it's still... It gets better when you put the sauce on it.
Next is the mushroom Benedict. It's basically 2 poached eggs sitting on top of some kind of mushroom in an English muffin, then drenched in hollandaise sauce. This one actually looks good. Now, if that poached egg is runny, this would be perfect.
So next one is this guy. This is like a poached egg. Right?
And it's not. I was really expecting it to be runny, or at least a little runny, but the yolk is completely cooked. You know, I actually researched egg benedicts, and every picture I saw, the yolk is oozing like syrup. Why it was cooked this way, I'm not sure. I think the chef may have overcooked them.
See that? There's some kind of sauce here.
This was really disappointing, but on the other hand, the mushroom was good. Finally, the creamy mushroom risotto. Risotto, of course, is rice. They have many different types of risotto. This one has roasted chestnuts, oyster, shiitake, and porcini mushrooms topped with chicken.
Alright, let's try the risotto. This has some kind of a... What's in here? Just mushroom?
I know it's Italian, but we wanted to try it. It's kind of hard to tell what's in this by looking at it. It just looks like sticky rice to me. But surprisingly, it was delicious. Although it's hard to tell the flavor of the ingredients I mentioned, it still worked. The only ingredient I could really taste was the mushrooms. It had this savory flavor to it, and the rice was just cooked perfectly. As I mixed everything on my plate, it's obvious the risotto was the best. Considering this place is known more as a pub, the food was okay. It reminded me of this small pub in Hamburg, Germany I've been to a few years ago. The owner came out and asked who ordered the food, then came to our table and demanded to know if we liked it. If that would have happened here, I would have probably lied and said it was good. After we ate, we walked just around the corner to the Trafalgar Square, where we passed this. It's called the Admiralty Arch, which leads to the mall straight to Buckingham Palace. Just right next to it is the square. This square is the largest in London. It's used for community gatherings as well as political demonstrations. It's been a significant landmark since the 13th century. Even with the two amazing fountains, the Nelson's column at the center surrounded with 4 lions is really hard to miss. But what we're really here for is this. This is called the National Gallery. It's located right in front of the square, and it's the most visited galleries in the world. This museum was established in 1824 and holds an enormous amount of art collections. It is said to have about 3,000 pieces of art, including works from Michelangelo, Rembrandt, and many more famous artists. What's really amazing about this museum, considering its popularity, is that the admission is free.
Oh, this painting is huge. I guess I can't film people, but I can film myself.
You're allowed to film or take pictures inside the museum, but selfie sticks are not. They were actually very strict about it. I kept getting asked if I was holding one, which I wasn't. I just had a small tripod attached to my camera. Most of the paintings here are pretty old and some are huge like this, but what really captures my attention are works from famous artists, such as this one from Michelangelo. You know, ever since my university days, Michelangelo had become my favorite artist. And what's really impressive about Michelangelo is that he is not really a painter, he is a sculptor. But if you look at his paintings, even these unfinished works, it's just hard to believe that. The way he uses colors and shadowing, it's almost as if the subject comes out of the canvas.
I'm gonna get really close on this. It's amazing.
As we walked around this museum, which the interior, by the way, is as impressive as the artworks displayed here, we finally found Rembrandt's paintings. Rembrandt was a Dutch painter in the 17th century, famous for being one of the greatest visual artists in the history of art. Even though he painted a wide range of subjects, he found more success as a portrait painter, and the most famous ones are of his own self-portraits, portraying himself during the different stages of his life.
Wow, this is huge.
This famous painting is from 1434 by another Dutch painter, I think. His name is Jan van Eyck, which I'm pretty sure I'm pronouncing incorrectly. This painting is called the Arnolfini portrait, which is considered one of the most original and complex paintings in Western art. I'm pretty sure you've heard of Leonardo da Vinci. Well, this painting is pretty controversial because another known version is at the Louvre in Paris. It is not sure if Da Vinci really painted this version, but this museum concluded that he did. I mean, who really knows, right?
See that painting? Looks like it's 3D. But if you get closer, watch. It's actually a flat painting. Interesting. And the painter is Giovanni Battista.
Since we had some time to spare after our tour at the National Gallery, we went back to the Westminster Abbey. This time we're going to take a tour inside, since we weren't able to do it the first time. I've already mentioned a brief history about this abbey on my first video of this trip. I don't really want to repeat myself here, so all I have to say about the Westminster Abbey is that since the Abbey's existence back in the 10th century, this Gothic church is one of the most important icons in London. So if you're here, you definitely shouldn't miss seeing this church.
Probably the best abbey I've ever been to in my whole life. Alright, heading inside.
So after we bought our tickets, which was around $26, I found out that you are not allowed to take videos or pictures inside the church. It's just really frustrating that you can't.
So I guess there's no photography here. No pictures? Okay.
Well, inside the church, I saw a lot of tombs of past kings and queens of England. Even on the floor we're walking on are burials and memorials of important people from the past. It felt really old and eerie at times walking through the tombs. And following the path of the tour, I remember seeing sculptures of marble. It's really interesting how little you remember without the help of a picture or a video. The most prominent thing I really remember in the abbey were the tombs and the burial sites on the floor we were walking on. The altar and the chapel inside is a little vague as I recall. You know, they should really change that rule of prohibiting cameras inside historical places like this. I just don't understand that rule. So this is the only part of the abbey that you're allowed to take pictures or videos. It's technically not inside the church, but on the outer walkway around the church.
It's Westminster Abbey. It's in there. Fortunately, I can't film inside. But they said that I can film out here. Look at that. It's the Westminster Palace. That one right there. It's the only place I can film. Look at this. Medieval stone coffins.
After walking around this walkway, we had to go back inside the abbey in order for us to exit the church completely.
Now I have to turn off my camera.
The Westminster Abbey was quite an experience, I should say. You can really feel the history and importance of this church. So now that's done, we walked to the street near Victoria Station where I noticed a few restaurants all lined up on each side, and we ended up here.
First stop is this restaurant. We got convinced of getting this one again, the fish and chips.
I really wanted to get the steak and kidney pie, but our waiter kept telling me not to get it. He told us that it's not really good, and I'm not going to like it. I didn't really mind if it wasn't good, because English is known for meat pies, so I ordered one anyway. Unfortunately, they didn't have the steak and kidney, at least that's what our waiter said, so I ended up getting this, chicken and mushroom. It came with fries and a side of gravy.
Kind of crazy. Alright, let's start this. Oh.
You know, our waiter is probably right. First of all, it didn't smell like those chicken pot pies we have in the US. And the sauce inside had a texture of uncooked dough. It's kinda sticky.
Mushrooms. It's hot. It tastes like
It didn't have any flavor and the chicken was a bit dry and stringy. I think this might be the worst chicken pie I've ever had. You know, maybe it would taste better if I add some gravy. Even the outer crust was kinda iffy. It doesn't have the crisp I was looking for. It felt soft and doughy.
The gravy's alright. It's not like, that strong gravy.
Now for the fish and chips. We didn't plan to order this because we already had this on our first day here. But since this restaurant is known for this and claimed to have won a lot of awards for it, well, here it is.
This. Oh, look at that. That is crazy.
First of all, the fish here, as well as the first restaurant we had this, is just amazing. It looks and smells really fresh. It's very juicy and meaty. Our waiter said they don't freeze their fish here, which I'm not sure about that. But I mean, just looking at it, frozen or not, It looks really fresh.
Here, you know what? I'll put some lemon on it.
One thing I like about this plate is that lemon. The other restaurant didn't have it, as well as the tartar sauce, although they had vinegar. And I actually prefer vinegar over tartar sauce.
Should I dip it on the thing?
The sauce.
Some sauce on it.
Yeah, I really like the vinegar better, but even so, it still tastes amazing. The fish is soft and tender, but at the same time meaty. The only difference I would say comparing this from the fish and chips we had is that this one is not that oily, but everything else is about the same. It's really good.
Actually, this is better. It's not oily. It's less oilier than the first one we have.
Before we came here, I had this plan to try one dish from every restaurant on this street. But after eating all this, I'm not sure if I'm going to have enough space in my belly for more food. But I still wanted to try it. So I asked our waiter what restaurant we should go next, and she recommended this one. It's a Turkish restaurant, but unfortunately, as we waited inside, the place was packed. The food must be really good here, but we didn't want to wait, so we left and found this one. It's a local restaurant and food chain here in England. I'm not really sure what they call the type of food they have here, but I wanted some meat, and a good steak sounds about right. So we ordered the grilled sirloin steak, and to my surprise, this came out. First of all, where is the steak? I mean, just look at this portion. It looked like a leftover from someone's plate. Okay, I might be a little harsh. It actually looks good. You can actually see the grill marks on this, and the sauce and rub coats the steak so perfectly. But that portion though, I'm glad we already had some food, because if I was hungry, I'd be really disappointed with this. And to think, this plate is about $20. Anyway, let's see if it's worth it as she splits this in half. Just slicing through this, I could tell that this is going to be tough. It's not exactly tender, but it looks like it's cooked right. Yeah, it's a bit tough and chewy, but the flavor is good and surprisingly juicy. The fat definitely made a big difference. You know, if it wasn't bad for your heart and arteries, I would probably eat this every day for the rest of my life.
It's a little pinkish though. It's a little pinkish.
So tomorrow is going to be our last day here in London, and we're planning to make the best of it. We're going to see and eat as much as we can. We plan to go to Hyde Park, Kensington Palace, Soho, the Regent Street, and much more. And the best part of it all is that the weather is going to be sunny and awesome.